The top of player engagement for video game genres goes to action games, where combat is an integral part of the game experience. It really shows how much players enjoy combat games, and it becomes a massive folk in massive games getting millions of active players. And as VR does to every game, it amplifies these mechanics, for better or for worse.
Joke's on you, buddy, but got it.
But combat is genuinely really fun in VR. But most of these games are extremely gory, or it's just the same slightly worse copy of the previous game. So I made it my goal to make my own physics-based VR combat game, because it can't be that hard. The first thing I needed for my game was an actual VR character, and Unreal Engine has this nifty VR template, which sucks. So I was gonna end up deleting everything out anyways. So I decided it would be much easier to start from scratch. So luckily, Slightly Ambitious Games has this great tutorial series on a VR character, even including a physics-based weapon. This is too good to be true. And it was. I was able to finish the first video, where I made some nice collision, already making it better than the template. But in the next video on making a full body IK, meaning inverse kinematics, which is hard to explain, but let me just show you. Okay, so the full body is really broken. This is probably because I'm using a custom mesh, unlike the tutorial which is using the mannequin that comes with Unreal Engine. So, I had to find a different approach. So, I found a video by this guy on making only arms, rather than the full body. And it worked on the first try. Okay, the wrist is pretty messed up, but I'll fix it later. With that out of the way, only 2 tutorials later, we have a perfectly working weapon system. You're kidding. Wait, I've got it. No! You know what I say about that? Die. So now we are back to the smooth collision, which is still better than the template. But I can use my knowledge of physics constraint thanks to a video by Yaro, who's pretty much the best of the best for VR Unreal Engine tutorials, so I give him all my thanks. That I watched in my first VR video, also the only one, to make hands. Basically, think of physics constraints as a string that's tying 2 objects together. If the string is loose, the weapon hangs slack, but if it's tight like I want it to be, then it stays in place, unless the physics prevents it from passing through. If I add this sword to the hand model, then we just have a physical sword. It doesn't have a grab system, but that's a problem for another video. Also, because I'm left-handed, you are too now. But combat is nothing without an enemy to, rumpus. Before we can create an enemy, we must understand what physics-based means. Physics-based, physically based animations. This is usually done using active ragdolls, which are just ragdolls, but the bones are being pushed with forces to create these animations. Think of games like Gang Beasts. In Unreal Engine, we use something called physical animation, combining the physics-simulated ragdoll with the actual animations. So I basically made it so if we hit the enemy hard enough, it causes damage in place in the animation. But one problem about our enemy is he's kind of an idiot, and he can't really attack us, so I gave him a sword and some attack animations, from Mixamo of course. But now everything works. Okay, this is because even though the sword has collision, it's following the animation, so there's nothing he can do. If we check simulate physics, so if we put another physics constraint, then it works. Unfortunately, because of reasons I don't quite understand, it won't let us tie the sword to the hand, meaning we need to use another reference mesh. But this just means the sword being stopped doesn't stop the animations. So, we need to be creative. Okay, I know this looks bad, but that's just because I play the same attack animation but in reversed if we detect a hit. I would probably add a proper parry animation eventually, but for now, this does the job perfectly fine. But I checked the time and oh my gosh, it's been 2 weeks since I last posted, which is actually when I expected this video to be out by. Whoops. So I guess it's time to create some incredible AI and gameplay loop. Your target is standing there with guards protecting him. If you try to attack him, you're dead. So you throw the rock to distract the guards and thinking it was you that made the noise, when really it was a rock, which gives you the opportunity to attack your target without alerting the guards. At least that's what I thought would happen. They really just all go looking for this. But first, we need a debrief of what the main idea of this game is, by Future Me.
So basically what I have in mind is we have armies of knights with swords, and they clash head on, and the player has his own army and the enemy has his own army. The player can buy better things for the army for money.
So instead of going through the hours of work bug fixing, I'll just show you how this AI works. Basically, we have our friendlies, which aren't actually friendly, they're deadly, but they're friends to the player. Anyway, the friendlies go and they select a random enemy to go after. An enemy can be selected by multiple friendly knights, but that's actually integral because all the enemies that weren't chosen go after the player, which is actually much more than anticipated, but honestly, this is better. But the AI is pretty much perfect. I'm overlooking the mass amount of AI just swinging their swords in the air because they're a bunch of babies. But I put together a bunch of maps in Unreal Engine, also known as 2, but now we have armies upon armies clashing head to head, also known as like 12, but it's actually really epic in some scenarios. I really like this nighttime castle map, but the map that kind of reminds me of Attack on Titan is pretty cool too. The meshes are really bad. In fact, this game is really bad, but I plan to work on this for other videos as well, so subscribe if you're interested, but always do yourself a favor, even if you don't want to, and let me know what you think in the comments. Oh wait, don't click off.